What happens a lot of time is we get so plugged into these external sources, these voices around us, our parents, our friends, our family, the news, the media, the school system, right? All these other entities and energies outside of ourselves that we're not actually in tune with ourselves. There's so much other noise going on.
Nicole, welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for your precious time. I'm so excited for our conversation. And once again, a huge welcome to the Hannah Wiz Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and privilege to be here.
I'm so excited, and we have so many topics to cover and so many things to talk about. Before we dive into all these wonderful topics, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing, who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Nicole Starbuck. I'm a psychic empath, quantum energy healer, spiritual mentor, and life coach. And what I do is I show people how to tune into their intuition and really use and develop their spiritual gifts and abilities so that they can create a life that they love.
Amazing. Have you always been spiritual, or did spirituality come at some point into your life?
Yeah, I've always resonated with some power outside of myself. I grew up in an organized religion. I grew up in a Christian home, and I really resonated with that at a young age. And then over time, my concept of God, source, universe, whatever you like to call that higher power, really expanded to where now I'm much more open in my spiritual practice and have studied lots of different modalities and also embrace what's my spiritual gift and ability, which is the gift of prophecy in the Christian church, or for others, may call that psychic intuition. So that's what I do now.
Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first discovered my spiritual gift. I discovered I was psychic when I was 9 years old. I was coming out of school to go get picked up. And just out of nowhere, I had this thought that a bird was going to poop on me. And I kid you not, like a couple seconds later, it pooped right here on my arm. And I remember looking down thinking like, oh my gosh, this is gross. And oh my gosh, I just predicted this. And what do I do with this? What do I do? And like, I went and washed it off. But just, I had this sort of realization that like, I saw that happening before it happened. And ever since then, I would just get all of these intuitive hits or divine downloads, premonitions, predictions, whatever you want to call them. I would have like a dream and then it would come true, or I would get a vision and it would come true. And, I'm 9 years old and I'm wondering, one, am I causing this? Am I creating this? That was a question of mine and it used to scare me. And two, what do I do with this information? Because I didn't have the tools or the resources to develop it. Coming from my religious background, I was told that if you did things like tarot cards or pendulums, like that was evil, that was witchcraft, you were going to go to hell. And nobody really talked to me about what it meant, like what the gift of prophecy meant, and that it was still a thing today. Like I thought that was just something from the Bible days. And so I kind of felt like I was going crazy in a way. And then I hid my gifts for many, many years, for, probably a good 10, 15 years. And then I realized that I was stuck in this loop of the anxiety was my intuition coming through, but I didn't know what to do with that information. And it wasn't until I had my first wake up call in the ER that something needed to change. I woke up and they told me I'd had a panic attack because I was trying to fit myself in this box of someone else's vision for my life. Go to school, get good grades, get a good job. Everything will be fine, right? But it was not fine. I had so much anxiety because I wasn't processing the information in a way that was beneficial for me. I had a lot of depression because I wasn't living my authentic truth. And all of this created a lot of dissonance or disease, or what I call dis-ease, because we're not at ease, which resulted in chronic illness. I had a lot of health issues. And I just thought there has to be another way, because they were pushing all this medication, psychiatric medication, anxiety medication, And to me, that just felt like a Band-Aid fix. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, but I think they have their place. But I also felt there had to be something more. And so that started my personal growth journey. But as I was on that journey for another few years, I realized I was still missing that spiritual component, that there was something deeper. It wasn't just the mindset, and it wasn't just like being medication free. It was really, really going all in my soul's mission, in my soul's calling, which was to develop my psychic skills and abilities, which was to help others do the same. And so I had a second spiritual awakening later on that resulted in that, where I really went, head first, dove all in into studying different modalities, which not only helped me to heal myself holistically, but then has become the cornerstone of my practice in not necessarily me like healing others, because I believe that I'm a channel for that. I don't think it's like, I have the power and let me heal you. But I'm channeling that power, and then showing others how to open up to that as well, so that they can do that from themselves. That's the big thing, is I don't want to be the place of someone doing that. I just want to show somebody how to do that for themselves. So that's a long answer to your question. My background and
one.
And how that went down.
If somebody is listening or watching right now, and that person is very curious to develop or maybe strengthen their own psychic abilities, how can we kind of get in touch with them? How can we strengthen them? And how can we kind of have those abilities too and use them to basically become the person that we're meant to be and live the life that we're meant to be?
Yeah, I love that question. So in my world, I see a lot of symptoms of telltale signs that someone may be intuitive or psychic or empathic. And I just want to clarify, I believe everyone is psychic to a degree. It's just that through social conditioning and over time, we lose sight of that. We lose touch with that. So anyone can develop this for sure. But signs and signals that somebody really may have a capacity for this or an aptitude for this type of work are typically three things. And it's usually not positive things. What I see a lot of is anxiety, depression, and chronic illness. So anxiety for me, in my experience myself, and then what I see in other people, is we get the divine download, we get the intuitive hit, we get the premonition, but somebody or something has told us that we can't trust ourselves. So then we get stuck in this loop of second guessing, which leads to overthinking, which leads to overwhelm, which leads to a stress response. And now we're stuck in this loop over and over and over and over. So that's the first telltale sign. And then another sign is the depression piece of someone just turns inwards and wants to withdraw because they feel like no one understands them. They feel alone, right? Not realizing that there's tons of other people out there just like them. Admittedly, I would say 1 to 2% of the population right now is like awakened, has really like tuning into their gifts. But that 1 to 2%, man, it's tight. And it's just a matter of finding those pockets and finding those communities. And then the other thing that I see is the chronic illness piece, where I've noticed, because I was doing professional psychic readings and healing sessions for many years. And these people would come to me with these different illnesses, and I realized that they were actually also empathic, but they were not shown how to channel the energy and filter it out of their system. So they were just absorbing it. Well, if you're holding on to somebody else's energy, it's going to make you sick, right? And so I developed this beautiful, pretty simple framework. But what I started teaching, and now what I share in my courses and programs and classes, is just a simple practice of, if you are suspecting that you are intuitive, psychic, empathic, however you want to label that. And I would encourage people not to get so hung up on the terminology, because sometimes people hear the word psychic and they get kind of like, oh, like, what is that? It doesn't matter. You can fill in the blank with whatever term really resonates with you. And so let's say you get a thought, an anxious thought. The first thing I'm going to encourage people to do is just take a moment to just turn your awareness to it. Like, sometimes we think that we have to run away from our thoughts and feelings, but it's just about bringing awareness to it, and you can look at it objectively. So let's take an anxious thought. Like a common one that I see in my world is, I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough money. I don't have enough love. This is time, money, love. Those are very common ones. It doesn't matter what the thought is, but just bring that into your awareness. And then ask yourself the question, is this true? Yes or no? Is this message for me? Yes or no? Because sometimes we get intuitive hits or visions. For example, I would get visions of like people getting sick or getting in car accidents, like usually not very positive things, right? Sometimes positive things, but just taking a moment to ask yourself, is this for me? And taking that a step further, if it's not for you, let it go. But if it is for you, asking yourself the question, is this within my control? So you can see how like we're slowing it down, drilling down. So if it's not within your control, energetically letting go, releasing it. I know easier said than done. Something that really helps me to let go is like shaking it out or dancing it out or just kind of moving, like inviting movement in to shift that energy. And then if it is within my control, asking yourself, is there something Spirit would like for me to do about this? Is there an action item here? Is there some sort of aligned, inspired action here? And if yes, move forward. If not, let it go. And if the answer is yes, if there is some sort of action that Spirit's wanting you to take, we'll take the money example. So is this true that you don't have enough money? It may or may not be true, but is this message for you? If it's for you, is this within your control? Yes. Is there an action item here? Yes. Well, what's the action item? Perhaps Spirit's calling you to start a business or sign on a new client or reach out to somebody or put together a new program. And then the next question is this something I'm feeling called to do right now? Or is this something for later? And then moving accordingly. So you can see how we move through this process, and all of a sudden we don't have to be afraid of the thoughts, but we can bring our awareness to it and channel it and process it in a way. And what this does is it encourages us to move inward. Because what happens a lot of time is we get so plugged into these external sources, these voices around us, our parents, our friends, our family, the news, the media, the school system, right? All these other entities and energies outside of ourselves that we're not actually in tune with ourselves. There's so much other noise going on. So if you can unplug, disconnect, take a moment, reflect, you can start to see how, one, there is some truth to what's happening, and two, there is actually something you can do about it.
Plus, it really brings us in the present moment. If we tune into inward, that is always, because very often when we're anxious or tripping about something in the future or thinking about something that happened and so on, but it brings us in the right here and now. Yeah. And usually we're in the right here and now, safe. And it's just our monkey mind that makes up all these things. But that's a really beautiful process. So thank you so much for sharing. For somebody, I think especially people who listen to this podcast, people who are already in the coaching, spirituality, maybe yoga scene, they do have a certain connection with their intuition. But then I think what's very often missing is true believing in it, or what's creeping in very often is huge self-doubt and doubt. I talk to so many people and they think yes, I get these intuitive insights, or yes, I have the intuitive feeling, I gotta do that. There are these moments of that, but then later on I think no, that was not a mistake, that was not the thing, or the mind starts to creep in. But sometimes it's really very equal, that people don't know anymore, okay, what was now the intuitive insight, and what is what should I do now? What should I trust? Should I go for it? Should I not start the business if we apply your example? So how can we learn to differentiate better? What is kind of the fearful monkey mind that's telling us just to stay in the same place and just to stay safe? And what is actually our intuition telling us, no, this is not your path and you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point that even within ourselves, we may have different voices. And I'm just reflecting on like my human design. I have something called a triple split where I'll receive and hear information from my gut, from my heart, and from my head. And they're often saying completely different things. Right? So there's this dialogue that happens between the three different sources of information in my body. And then it's ultimately what feels true and what feels like we're acting out of faith and not from fear. So faith is going to stretch you, it's going to push you, but ultimately it's going to stretch and push you towards expansion. So that's typically moving forward in some way. Fear is going to pull you back and constrict you towards staying the same. And the ego gets a bad rap. Sometimes we look at the ego as something like to be afraid of, or like it's evil or it's wrong, right? The ego is just telling you what you've told it, which is, I want to stay safe, I want to stay small, right? So when we get these different voices, what I like to do is show people something called the energetic signature, is just really tuning into what does truth feel like for you in your body. So if we were to take a moment to close our eyes, and just taking a really simple example of a yes or no question that you know for a fact to be true. For example, the sky is blue. And we want to use like simple statements because then there's no room for opinion in there. The sky is blue. Yes or no? Okay. Yes, I feel that right here in my solar plexus, right in my stomach, right in the gut. Yes, the sky is blue. Take another example. My name is Nicole. Yes, I feel that right here in between my heart and my gut. So now let's take another example of, we'll go back to the sky. The sky is red. Now I feel like, well, no, the sky's not red. That can't be true. That's not possible. So now it's shifted. Now it's actually, it's not even within my brain. It's actually like other thoughts coming in from outside of myself, around my head, but from outside. Take another example. We'll say, my name is Sarah. No, my name's not Sarah. I feel that right here. I can immediately hear all the voices. No, that's not true. Right here. So that would be an exercise for differentiating. Just practice and play with this and start to understand, where do you feel truth in your body? Because so many intuitives, so many psychics, so many spiritual light workers feel things in their body. So where do you feel truth in your body, and what does that feel like? And just start to play around with that and start to notice. So then when you're faced with, say, an intuitive vision, such as starting a business, I'm meant to be starting a business. So I already have a business. So for me, I feel expansion here in my heart, versus we'll take the opposite. I'm meant to be shutting down my business. And all of a sudden I can feel my head going, shaking my head. No, that's not true. So that would be a really simple practice for differentiating even our internal voices. Because you're right, there's stuff happening on the inside too. What do you trust? You got to trust the voice that's pushing you forward towards expansion.
Which is so incredible, because you really got to learn your unique yes and no's. Because as you were saying, I was doing all the exercises, and my no's, for example, were kind of like that my energy totally closed off, and it was like almost like pushing me back. And these things that we really learn to, like, what is our unique yes and no, our unique knowing is so important. So thank you so much for sharing.
I mean, I did this exercise with a client last week or the week before, and her, like, just like you, her no was leaning back, her yes was leaning forward. So this is pulling you back, moving you forward.
Which is incredible. You also teach a lot about energy and also about chakras. You're actually now soon like having a challenge and like teaching, you're having a free worksheet. So would you, for everybody who's not at all, never heard, or maybe like dropped, like somehow heard the term chakras, but doesn't really know what they are, would you like explain us a little bit better the world of chakras and how we can work with them?
Yeah, so the chakras, that's a Sanskrit term for wheel, and there's these energy centers within the body going from the top of the head, and there's actually more beyond that, but we'll focus on the core 7. So the top of the head and to the base of the spine or the pelvis. And so I like to start from the bottom, because if the bottom isn't aligned, then nothing else above it's going to be aligned. So starting with the bottom, we have our root chakra there at the base of the spine, which is categorized by red. So just imagining this red ball spinning within you there in your groin. And then moving on up, we have the sacral chakra, which is right there, like in the belly button in the gut space. So this is orange. And this is a lot of the root was the identity, like our sense of self. And then the sacral is our creativity, our sensuality, our power, divine feminine, divine masculine. So that's there in that center. And then going above that, we have our solar plexus in the stomach area. So this is our sense of control. This is the yellow area. And this is where people tend to feel a lot of tension. So even just saying the word control, I contracted. I can feel the audience contracting. So this is where we hold on to a lot of tension. This is where people end up with a lot of stomach issues too. And that's an important thing to notice, is if any area here is unbalanced, we're going to end up with issues in that area. So people that have, say, disconnect in the root chakra, like not having a sense of self, they may have trouble connecting with people. They may not know who they are. They may feel lost or ungrounded, or have trust issues. So then going up to the sacral chakra, which was the sensual center, if that's imbalanced, if you're a woman, you may have hormonal issues, menstruation issues, sexual issues. If there's anything happen there, you may feel creatively blocked or not able to create anything. If you're going up to the solar plexus, here we get a lot of stomach tension, stomach upset, control issues. You know, for me, like, in my control issue days was a lot of like disordered eating and things like that. So we get that in that area. And then moving up to the heart, which is, I want to say it's green. I'm losing my colors here. Yeah, green. So then here, this is where we give and receive love. This is also where we manifest. So if we have any sort of resistance towards receiving love, if we're pushing love away, we're also going to be pushing away abundance, prosperity, manifestation too. So this is where we see that. And this is where we see a lot of wounding of, say, if there's any childhood trauma, any inner child stuff wanting to come through, any previous romantic partnerships that didn't work out in our favor, we're going to hold that here in our heart space as well. So then moving up to the throat, which is the light blue. This is our throat chakra, where we express ourselves. So people that have closed off throat chakras will often have difficulty expressing themselves. If they try and talk about something that's emotional for them, they start to choke up, the tears well up in their eyes, and they can't actually articulate into words their experiences or what they're thinking or feeling. And then going up to the third eye, which is indigo, it's between blue and purple. But here in the third eye is our psychic intuition. So somebody that is really in tune with their third eye will have visions and downloads. Somebody that's not so in tune will feel like disconnected from their sense of intuition. And then going up to the crown chakra, the purple, is the connection to the divine, the higher self, God, source, universe, whatever you call that higher power. So you can see how like these are kind of talking to each other, right? So somebody that's a really powerful manifester may also have a very active sacral chakra, or somebody that has a very active sacral chakra, a sense of power, may also have a very aligned throat chakra. So everything is connected. And so what I show in this particular challenge that we're running is I'm going to teach on that, what I just explained, but also we're going to do a guided meditation on actually clearing and healing each area, because everything is connected. So let's say you want to really tune into your spirit guides and you want to be able to hear from angels and your ancestors, and that's great. But in order to activate the third eye, we have to start from the bottom, make sure everything's aligned, and then go all the way up.
Incredible. Like, I love working with my chakras. I've done like I think I did like 5 years ago or something, yoga chakra, like it was a yoga flow specialized on chakras. Mm-hmm. And before that, I was kind of like very on the physical yoga practice and everything spiritual or energetic and so on. Like, I heard about the concept. I kind of like yes, understood everything is energy, but then yet did not fully believe in that. And I remember that yoga class, like I came home as a different person.
Yeah.
It was so incredible. And that really opened me up to the world of chakras. And I
Yeah,
love
I'm
to
glad you
work.
said that because that was the like missing piece for me when I said that I was really into personal growth and mindset stuff, and then I felt like something was missing. I just randomly met someone on Instagram, and she was running a chakra workshop, and it was like, I don't know, like $40 for the week, and it was, each day was each chakra, so there's the whole week. And I was like, I don't know anything about the chakras, but I've heard of them, and I like when we learned. So I learned, and that was what really like bridged the gap for me. That when we are, on our ascension journey, our healing journey, spiritual growth and development, it's the energy too. It's not just the mind, it's not just the body, but it's also the energy and the emotions. And once I learned about that, I was able to bring that into my practice and start, guiding my clients through that in a way that really shifted and transformed the stories they were telling themselves, because we could actually go into the root causes and not just address it from the mindset perspective. So it's the cornerstone of everything. I start all my one-on-one clients on chakra stuff, start all my group programs on chakra stuff, because it's just so good.
Yeah, plus it like what I love about that is that it kind of also combines like the energetic part, but then you can also like work with affirmation slash has topics. Like as you said, every chakra is linked to a certain topic in your life. And you can also kind of like work in that direction. So if I have troubles to speak my truth, for example, and my throat chakra is blocked, I can like work on it both ways. I can talk with like coach and like work through it, like what is it actually, what was like in my childhood, what happened or something that kind of like where I stopped allowing myself to speak my truth. And at the same time I can work on an energetic level, and then I can also incorporate the physical level by incorporating asanas and like in my yoga practice do things that open whatever chakra is blocked.
Yeah.
And I always love everything that has this holistic approach that gives us like so many options to change a certain topic.
Yeah, exactly. So good.
I will definitely link your challenge in the show notes so that everybody who watches or listens can participate. And I have on my like wanting to learn list since forever the Akasha Chronicles. And I looked up several books, didn't really find one that was appealing, and I'm not yet that skilled about it. Like I know what it is, but other than that, I'm not. So please, please, please teach me and maybe also my audience. What are the Akasha Chronicles? How can we kind of like download information? How can we work with them? And how can the Akasha Chronicles basically help us to, as said, like be who we really are meant to be and create the life that we want to create?
Yeah, I love the Akashic Records. I refer to them as the Akashic Records, but it's the same thing. Akashic Chronicles, Akashic Records. There's actually a really great book. It's on my shelf, and I don't want to like leave the screen to go grab it. But Akashic Records by Linda Howe, and she also does a program, certification course that you can take. But if you just want to read or listen to the book, that's a great resource as well. But the Akashic Records, in a nutshell, is the history of everything that ever was, is, and will be. And how I picture it, and when I go into it, it's this like giant library. If you can imagine, like in old school movies or even like cartoons, I always think of Beauty and the Beast, where he has that library and it's filled from floor to ceiling, just bookshelves, just completely full of books. And so this is the record of everything that ever was, is, and will be. And you go in, and somewhere in that library is my book. And somewhere in that library is your book. And so when we do an Akashic Records reading, it depends. So either I'm doing it for someone and I go in there and I look at their book and I tell them what I saw, or if, because a lot of what I do is I train other psychics how to be more psychic, I'll actually go in there with them and we'll do it together. So we can do like a little mini version of this here. So if we were to close our eyes and ground our energies, I usually start my practice by going into the deep earth and then extending my branches out to the sky to connect to the cosmos. And I'm pretty practiced with this, so I just go right into the library. But if you want to imagine going up like a spiral staircase, and going up this beautiful spiral staircase, and you get to the top, and it's like this city of clouds, this beautiful library filled from floor to ceiling, books and shelves. And just notice where your eye gravitates to a particular shelf and pulling out the book. I tend to visualize these giant books, like huge dictionaries like you used to see in old school libraries. This is the book of Nicole or the book of Hannah. And you just start to flip through, and as you flip through, you may get visions of either this life or past lives, or perhaps in between lives when we were still star seeds in the heavens. And I've done a lot of this for myself already, so I get kind of repeats of things that I've already seen before, but then sometimes I get visions of new information. And it may help to go in with a particular intention, like if you have a specific question that you're wanting to ask your records. For example, what's the next step for me? Is it within this lifetime for me to start a business? Should I start a family? You can go in with a specific question, or you may go in with a more generalized approach. Like I go in with an open mind, open heart and say, what is it that you would like to show me? What is it that you'd like to reveal to me? So I tend to be more general in my approach. So going in, and for whatever reason, I'm getting a lot of war imagery for myself, which suggests some sort of past life in battle or in conflict. And then we have these patterns. Why the Akashic records are so powerful is patterns that we acted out in previous lives will act out in current life as patterns. So if I'm seeing war imagery that suggests battle or tension or conflict, well, how am I seeing tension or battle and conflict in my life today? And then we have this beautiful opportunity to then heal and resolve that here in this lifetime, which then resolves, which may be a soul contract, which is an agreement that your soul made, say after this first battle way back when, however many hundreds of years ago, and my soul said, hey, you know what? Let's make a contract to resolve this in a later life so that it doesn't keep happening. So if I can pinpoint that and resolve that, then I can take that, clear that. And so in the next incarnation, I don't necessarily have to keep living out conflict and battle. That was my example. But what I see a lot in clients that I work with is like vows of poverty. If we had a lifetime as like a nun or a monk, or if we take in any sort of vow of poverty, I see that. I see a lot of like karmic contracts with like soulmates, twin flames, unrequited love, unreciprocated love. I see that panning out in past lives, and then it carries into this life, and then we wonder why can't I find a good man? Why can't I find a good partner? Because it's there's something in a past life that wants to be healed and revealed. So play around with this, and if it helps to go into a guided meditation, to do that. If it helps to have a professional reading done, then go do that. But it's just a really beautiful way of exploring the book of life, our book of life, and our history, going back into past lives, in between lives, and exploring our soul contracts, and then how that's playing out in our current physical cycles and patterns.
Incredible. I love these topics. This is all so fascinating to me, and it's really funny because just right now doing the exercise with you, it was like currently it comes all the time like be patient. I guess like patience is like my life lesson or something. Yeah. And I was like, when was the new moon? 3 days ago, 4 days ago or something, and I was pulling a card, and it was also, the card said word by word, it just said wait. And it was also telling me like, yeah, I just gotta have patience, wait, everything takes time, and so on. And it's so interesting again how like we can get this information from our angels, our spirit guides, spirit itself, through all these different modalities, and how it's actually available to all of us.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love that you said patience. That's been my one for a while. I feel like I'm transitioning a little bit out of that. But what's interesting is when we ask spirit for patience, it's not always that it just gives us more patience, although it can be that way. But often what we find is then we'll be presented with opportunities or situations to practice patience. not like, this is a test, but this is our way of stretching that muscle. So yes, it can be, instantly I'm patient, but it can also be, hey, here's an opportunity to practice and develop that skill. So just being mindful and aware of that. And then something that I really like to share with people is, you can try this exercise with me, but in thinking of patience, it's often a desire to hold on to control, right? Like we want something to happen a certain way on a certain day, and like we're kind of like this kind of energy, right? It's like, oh, when's it gonna happen? What's it gonna happen? How's it gonna happen, right? And so if we were to just like shake that off and then just kind of present ourselves with that, like hands open, it's a lot more free. Like just notice how your body feels, fists clenched, and then shake it off, and then notice how your body feels, hands open. Because we get in our heads that we want a particular thing and we want it a particular way, but what we're doing is we're actually limiting the universe by putting it in a box. Because what if actually the universe wanted to give you something better, but it was going to take a week longer or a month longer? But we have it in our heads, it has to be this way. So if we open up, now we're actually open to receiving. Because if I were the universe and I came to your door and I said, Hannah, I want to give you $100,000 or $1 million, or I want to give you 10 new clients or 20 new clients. But you're like, no, I wanted 3 clients. Like, you're like, no, I wanted this many. Like, that's not open. And how are you going to receive the gift if your hands are closed? You have to be hands open.
I love that metaphor. I always like, yes, as if you hold on to something, like you don't have your hands open to receive something. So, yes.
My mantra
absolutely.
is this or something better. I would like this, but I'm also open to something better.
It's literally what I write in my manifestation journal and so on. Absolutely. Absolutely. I just find patience sometimes so boring. Like, it's not that I'm asking for it. It's more like the universe is teaching me it. And it's really like, I'm a very fast-paced person and I like to go things and that's not how life works. And that's what I'm learning every day.
Yeah. The other metaphor is like we often want to make stuff happen. I saw a lot of that in the mindset world. Is make it happen, right? And it has this sort of, not that there's anything wrong with masculine energy, but it's sort of this energy of like swimming upstream, like fighting against the current to make it happen, make your dreams come true. It's all up to you, right? And what if we were to just like let go and just go with the flow and allow the universe, this river of life, to guide us, however, and keeping in mind that sometimes the river goes slow and sometimes the river goes fast. And that's all beautiful. That's all part of the journey. There's no right or wrong. There's only that divine timing. But just like if you were imagining, I always imagine like the lazy rivers here in Texas where I live, and you can go on these like floaty donuts and go sit in the river and just kind of allow the river to take you where it goes. Like you're not fighting against the current. You're not swimming upstream. You're just allowing it to take you wherever it goes and enjoying the beauty in that moment. So I am with you. I'm a go-getter. I like to get things done. I have a to-do list. Like I'm on a mission. And for me, patience has been about enjoying the journey. If we become engrossed in the beauty of the moment that we're in, then we find that we're not like waiting for that moment to pass. We're actually present in the moment.
Absolutely. And I'm talking to so many women, and I feel like for so many of us, because we do live in a very masculine society, it is like the journey of kind of like coming home to learn things such as like to come back into feminine energy and do things such as surrendering and so on. Like very often it's not the hard thing to like go take action. For some of us but for some of us, it's more the like, okay, allowing to receive and like to just like to surrender and accept what is and like going through that. And I feel like more and more women are like, very many women talking about too. They also like saw such profound changes in their life once they stepped out of this masculine energy of like doing, because that's what we're taught. You know, that's always kind of like, that's, you got to work hard, you got to hustle. Like that's the culture we're all living in. And it's like a very foreign concept that we have to like learn now, almost like new to that if we rest more, like all these things that they're actually in the long term bringing us closer to the goals that our heart desires or to the things that we want to have in life. But it's like really, I feel like it's a big unconditioning of what we were told and kind of like a new conditioning of like the information that like more and more people now receive of masculine, feminine energy, of like understanding that everything is like a marathon and not a sprint, and that we have to take care of ourselves. And so many of us burned ourselves out like 2-3 times before we started to understand, okay, self-care matters.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. The other thing I'd like to share along that line is just a very simple way of reminding ourselves of the energy and the frequency around the things that we're calling into our life and wanting to attract or to manifest. Because you touched on it right there. It's that if we are in this mode of go, 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 get, make it happen, and that has its place, but if we're always constantly in that flow, is that actually a vibrational match for what it is that we're calling in? Say you're wanting to call in love. I want to find love. No, love will find you. Like, you have to be open to receiving love. So this framework that I developed, I call it the manifest method. So it's a play on words from manifest, but manifest, F-A-S-T. F stands for feel the frequency. A stands for act as if. S stands for surrender to success. And T is trust the timing. And it really just encapsulates everything we just talked about. But if you were to feel the frequency of what you're calling in, say, attracting love or attracting a soulmate client, if you were to receive that immediately, this idea of receiving, like, puts you into your feminine, because that's the feminine vibe is receiving. You don't have to go out and chase it. You don't have to make anything happen. And so how good would it feel for you to find your soulmate or to sign your next client and allow your body to receive that vibration so that you are the vibrational match for that? It's not about the doing, it's about the being, being the vibrational match. And then acting as if, something that I would practice if there was something specific I was wanting to call into my life. I still do this occasionally. But this 3-part journaling practice starts with gratitude, writing 10 things that you're grateful for. And then if 10 is easy, writing 20 things. If 20 is easy, writing 30 things, etc. Until it's like really, really challenging for you to think of things, because that's really putting you in the gratitude space, but also feeling the gratitude, not just being like, oh, I'm so grateful for my husband, I'm so grateful for my kids, but like actually feeling the gratitude. And then going into affirmation. So affirming what it is you'd like to call into your life. For example, if you're calling in wealth, prosperity, abundance, saying, I am wealthy, I am abundant, I am prosperous, but also feeling it, not just writing it out or just saying it like it's a mundane routine thing, but actually feeling that with each affirmation. And again, if 10 is easy, do 20. If 20 is easy, do 30. And then going into the acting as if, which was the A of our manifest method, is writing it in past tense as if it's already happened. I'm so grateful that 10 people just signed up for my program and it impacted their lives and it was so incredible and everyone was transformed and they couldn't wait to sign up for the next program. And it's past tense as if it's already happened, because your brain doesn't really know the difference. If you tell it something is true, it's going to believe you. And so if you put something in past tense and as if it's already happened, well, now it's going to find evidence and opportunities to make that true. So then the next piece, which we already touched on, but the surrender to success, is like actually letting go of the control piece and allowing it to come through as it wants to come through. And the A, that act as if, could also stand for aligned action, because the surrendering isn't just being passive, it's being open to however the universe wants for that to come through. So let's say, we'll take the business example because that keeps coming up. But you want to call in 3 more clients. And you're just expecting it to magically pop into your door. But what if the 3 more clients come through with an idea for a program? Universe gives you an idea for a program, but you're like, oh, I don't have time for that. Well, that was the way that the 3 clients were going to come through. So you have to start to connect when you ask for something, just like when I said, when you ask for patience, it's going to give you opportunities for patience. When you ask for clients, it's going to give you opportunities to bring in clients. But you have to actually take that action step. And then the last piece is trusting the timing. So that idea for the 3 clients could come through later today, it could come through tomorrow, it could come through next week. But you trust that everything's going to happen exactly as it needs to happen, and there's no right or wrong, and the journey is the journey. And then when the idea comes through and you act on it, that's exactly when those people are ready to come in.
Yeah. To close the circle, actually what you said, like talking about faith, like this whole doing, and I gotta like this overdoing, like almost with a constrained energy, what it comes down to mostly is actually like a lack of faith. Or whenever I notice like I'm in this hustle mode and so on, I'm like tuned, like stepping back and like, okay, like what is actually the emotion that's popping on? Why am I like this? And so on. And as you said before, kind of like this controlling mechanism always is kind of like, to me, on the other end of like, actually, I'm not having the faith that which doesn't mean I should not take action at all. But it's always the difference, like this energy of, do I take inspired action or do I take like controlling action?
Yeah.
And I think that's like, we all will, like over time, you get a very good energy or like a very good feeling of like, okay, out of what energy am I taking action right now? Is it out of joy? Is it out of inspiration? Or is it kind of like this controlling, constrained energy action? Mm-hmm. And that always mostly comes from that I'm lacking faith, that everything happens to my highest good, that what I desire will come into my life. And yeah, I feel like that is kind of like the big difference between taking inspired action and taking controlled action.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you said that, because I've been really playing around with this energy with my programs and offers, because if I'm putting something out there, I ask myself the question, am I doing this because it feels aligned? Or am I doing this because I'm in freak out mode that I need X amount of dollars to come in order to pay XYZ bill, right? So like you can see the difference in that energy. Like, is this a trusting action? Is this a faithful action? Or like, going back to faith and fear, is this a fear-based action or a control-based action? And you touched on something else, which is the joy piece. And I think this is what so many of us women entrepreneurs are missing is, does this actually light my soul on fire? Does this bring me joy? Does this bring me pleasure even? Like even the word pleasure, like I'm saying that and I can feel people like constricting because they're just not used to like feeling immense joy and pleasure in their lives. But does this actually like bring me whole body pleasure to be creating this or to be putting this offer out there, to be starting a business or whatever the case may be? And that's the real like embodiment piece, is, do you actually believe that you are worthy of feeling joy, that you are worthy of feeling pleasure in your business even, right? And so we can start to play around with that. And a really simple practice for that is just doing the things, little things that bring you joy. It doesn't have to be related to business. So something for me is my morning coffee ritual, and I actually don't drink coffee anymore. I switched to adaptogen coffee, which is mushroom based, and it just brings me so much joy. I just really love that cup of mushroom coffee. And it's just a simple way of receiving. And so if we don't take anything else away from this conversation, it's just really tune into what feels good for you. What brings you joy? What brings you pleasure? What lights your soul on fire? And then follow that. And the more you follow that, the more joyful and pleasurable things will come into your life.
Exactly. Which is actually, again, focusing on the here and now, like what brings me joy today. And the more we bring that into the here and now, the more, because so often all these manifestations like far in the future, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like the gap between, okay, this is where I want to go and this is where I am and how. And then like people sit in their meditations, think very strongly about it, feel it even in every cell of their body, even if that's the case. But then I step into my life, and then actually my life is filled with like a job I don't like, financial troubles, maybe a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, that I don't feel aligned with right now, whatever it may be. Maybe somebody's living in a country or in a city that they don't like. And I feel like the more we focus on, okay, what can I do today that bring me joy? Even if it's just in the evening, a nice yoga practice or a good book or maybe a joyful movie. And the more we bring those things into our life, like that kind of creates like then we like it's just one single day, but all over it's our whole life at some point, or a whole year, and so on. So I find that so beautiful. So thank you so much for mentioning, because this is how we in the end create the life that we love.
So true. Yeah. So good. I'm just so excited for everyone that's listening to this or watching this, and just being able to up level and shift their lives, because just like you said, it could be a micro shift. We sometimes think that transformative change happens like this big quantum leap, and all of a sudden you were here and then now you're over there. Like, it can be that way for sure, but also like these little micro steps or micro shifts over time add up to huge, huge results. So don't discount or discredit that either.
Absolutely. So if we would want to microshift or even quantum leap with you, where can we find you and how can we get in touch with you?
Yes, I always love to connect with like-minded souls. So you can find me. My academy is oracleacademy.com. That's a play on words with aura. So instead of ORACLE, it's actually spelled like aura, AURACLE, academy.com. That also has our psychic school for developing your psychic intuition and your spiritual gifts and abilities. So if you want to connect online, you can find me on Instagram at instagram.com/Nicole.Starbuck. That's my first and last name separated by a dot in the middle. And then you mentioned the chakra challenge, which I believe will have already happened by the time this airs. But if you want to join us for the other programs that we have, I do a lot of free masterclasses in my Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Oracle Academy. Again, that's Oracle as in aura, AURACLE.
I will link it all in the show notes so everybody can find it very easily. And Nicole, to you, a huge thank you for following your passion and the gifts that you were giving, and actually like listening to your intuition and being for us a light by doing so. And thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. It was truly a super, super inspiring conversation. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
Now, I would like to know from you, what was your biggest takeaway and how can you put it into action starting now? Leave a comment below or hop over to Instagram at HannahWiz_ and leave a comment under the post of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and never forget to shine your light.